obviously some people are walking around with masks. I think it needs to become mandatory.
Oh yeah.
I think they should.
I think
until we get this rectified.
Growing calls in Chatham-Kent to make masks mandatory. This as the region sees a spike in cases, well, already in stage 3. A report 2 years in the making. Results from an investigation into the Windsor Police Service and the Police Board will be made public tomorrow. Tonight, we break down what's at stake. A live look outside of the Detroit River there. You can see the Canadian flag blowing, a little windy. 24 right now, certainly cooler than it's been before. Cloudy in the evening. And wondering if that rain is going to miss us over the weekend. Colette Kennedy will show us the latest in her forecast. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. We are just weeks away from the start of a new school year that will look very different than normal. Students, parents, teachers, all wondering what exactly to expect. The Windsor-Essex Catholic School Board has released its return to school plan, and tonight Stacey Janzer takes us on a tour for a sense of what school should look like in September.
For now, these larger areas will be closed.
Here at St. Thomas Villanova, students will be told what entrances they can enter through. They'll have to wear a mask, sanitize their hands, and physically distance. Arrows show students which ways to walk. In between classes, a staggered release so hallways don't fill up.
We know that there's a lot of uncertainty, and we know that many of our students are probably very anxious right now and very concerned about returning to school.
For the most vulnerable students, this high school will bring them into the building early so that they can get comfortable before the start of session. But for those starting on September 8th, it's much like the plan the province has already laid out. Here, 600 students will be allowed in class a day. Class size maximum, 15. Students will attend 2 classes a day, each 2.5 hours long. Every desk is labeled with a 1 or a 2, informing students which desk to sit at depending on the period. Rooms will be cleaned regularly.
We do have 2 washrooms here, male, female, and if you'll notice, we've limited the capacity of our washrooms.
Signs around the school act as reminders on how many people can be in a room at a time. If a student shows signs of COVID, they'll be isolated and sent home to seek medical advice. Meanwhile, in elementary schools, full class sizes, desks 1 meter apart. In this classroom of 20 students, children will be placed in 1 of 5 color groups.
If the teacher says, now I'd like the red group to come up, she's going to make sure that she has the red group spaced out within the classroom, and we have them spaced 1 meter apart to meet the requirements of physical distancing.
But some remain concerned about the plan.
Why risk an experiment with our children?
Christopher Layton is a retired radiation oncologist and part-time undergraduate medicine educator. He also has an immunodeficiency. He worries about ventilation in the classrooms.
30 children, just 1 of whom is infected, in a closed classroom for hours, exhaling just at a regular respiration rate. If there is not ventilation, you're posing a great risk to the remainder of the group.
In a statement, the Catholic Board says our Facilities Services Department has done a complete assessment of all of our schools' HVAC systems to make sure that they are in excellent working condition. They will continue to do proactive reviews of all equipment in order to identify any required repairs, which will become a top priority. This is just a start. The board still has some further planning to do before school starts next month. Stacey Janzer, CBC News, LaSalle.
The Ford government is facing growing pressure over its plan for getting kids back to school, and now the Premier and the Education Minister are ramping up their defense of that plan. Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley reports.
Right after the long weekend concluded, with the start of school just a month away, Premier Doug Ford was on the road in Niagara and had to defend his school reopening plan.
I fully understand why the parents are nervous. I'd be nervous if my kids were back in school. They don't have to put their kids in school. They can keep them home and do online learning.
Again yesterday, a barrage of questions for Ford on the school plan. Some of his answers stirred the pot.
Good afternoon. If it was up to all of us, we'd have 5 kids in a classroom. I wish I had just the magical wand to say everyone's going to be perfectly fine, and pray to God that everyone's safe. That's what I want. Just the kids to be safe.
Today, no backing down by Ford.
A lot of people out there are saying, great plan, We have the best plan, bar none, over any province. All the other provinces are shouting and screaming saying we want Ontario's plan.
Still, some shifts could be in store for the school reopening plan, according to the education minister.
We're going to work very closely with the medical minds in this province, with our unions, with our school boards, with parents, to make sure that this living document is only strengthened over time, that we could do more, and I think we can. And I know that there's areas where the government has already indicated we want to reduce those classroom sizes.
The NDP leader, Andrea Horvath, is calling the government's back-to-school plan bargain basement and says it simply isn't good enough to ensure that kids and teachers are safe. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Chatham-Kent has seen an uptick in positive cases of COVID-19. 12 of them can be attributed to a single boat trip. It comes as the area experiences its second death after someone tested positive for COVID-19, and people are calling for mandatory masks. All of this, even though the area is already in stage 3, with Windsor, Essex in stage 2. Jacob Barker is in Chatham-Kent tonight. Jacob, we're going to start with the mask issue there. A lot of jurisdictions have rules in place that people have to wear them. Why not in Chatham-Kent?
Yeah, well, Chris, medical officer of health for Chatham-Kent, David Colby, says that while there is strong evidence for medical grade masks, when it does come to those cloth masks, the data is a little bit more murky, and that's why he's hesitant to recommend them. He said at one point in a meeting earlier today, they're kind of like chicken soup. They might make you feel better, but they're really only good to contain larger droplets from people who might be coughing or sneezing. And if you're coughing or sneezing, he says you shouldn't be out anyways. Despite his hesitations, the people I spoke with here in Chatham-Kent, they do want to see mandatory masking. Chatham-Kent entered stage 3 on July 17th. The day before that, the region had just 168 confirmed cases. Today, that number tipped over 300. Yesterday, the health unit reported the second death of a resident because of the virus. Seeing the numbers rise has some concerned.
Well, I feel that people have gotten more relaxed, which I don't think is a good thing.
There are no signs on the outside of this grocery store telling people they have to wear masks, and not everybody I saw going in was wearing one. Still, asking around in the parking lot, people think masks should be required.
Obviously, some people are walking around with masks. I think it needs to become mandatory to help prevent the spread, because in the past week we've had a big increase in spread in this community.
We just came from the Walmart. Wear a mask no matter where you go, even though Chatham-Kent says you don't have to wear it, which doesn't make any sense.
I feel that it should be mandatory that you wear a mask and you wash your hands.
Yeah.
And still social distance, because we're just not sure of where this coronavirus is coming from or where it's going.
A local resident did start a petition to push council for a mandatory mask bylaw, one that has over 2,000 supporters. That issue is likely coming up at Monday's council meeting. The organizer of the petition hopes council will see it through.
I've actually been very appalled at the fact that Chatham-Kent hasn't done this on their own. So all you need to do is take a look around to the other municipalities that have had mandatory masking in place and can see the positive results from that. I would have hoped that he would have been on board with this by now, which he is not.
One thing to note is Colby does not attribute the jump in numbers to community spread. He says it's being caused by close contact, people coming into contact closely with somebody who has the virus. He also says that the jump in numbers has a lot to do with the number of cases we're seeing in the lower German-speaking community here, as well as that big number from the boat trip.
Yeah, Jacob, let's take a look at that boat trip there. You were saying earlier 12 people as part of that trip have the virus, but the spread there, are they concerned about more numbers?
Yeah, well, what Colby called that boat trip was a flotilla. He says it involved multiple families and took place quite far away from the community. He didn't say exactly where, but he did say it was in Eastern Ontario. He said the unit is doing a lot to do contact tracing now. There are a lot of people that they have to contact about it. He reminded people to keep social gatherings to under 10. And the Premier also weighed in on it today. He had a few things to say.
It's unfortunate. We have to practice social distancing, as the Minister of Health said. This isn't over, and even by the way, when we hopefully we'll get a vaccine by January or sooner, it still won't be over. You know, we have to still be vigilant and practice social distancing, and that's why I think it was a couple of weeks ago there was a concern about tour boats, and we just didn't want the tour boats because things happen. But we're going to be vigilant. We're going to continue making sure we monitor the situation. And
yeah, so Colby said that the new issues that they are facing here in stage 3, they're not as big. He said the transition actually from stage 2 into stage 3 was a bigger transition. But when asked to give a score of how people are doing, how people are acting in stage 3, he said because of the incident on the boat, he had the score of, or the grade of B-, but now he says that he's changed that to a C+. Chris?
Thanks, Jacob. The CBC's Jacob Barker live tonight in Chatham, Kent. Back here in Windsor, Essex, we should know more in the coming days of if this community can hit stage 3. Currently the only place in the province in stage 2. The news could come as early as tomorrow. According to the medical officer of health, we are expecting an update. And today we asked if Windsor, Essex is ready for the next stage.
As we are moving to different stages, it opens up more possibilities of exposure, but it also opens up more opportunities to alleviate some of the social and economic and mental well-being of everyone in the community. So I think we just need to find that right balance. So even, let's say, whenever we move to stage 3, I don't want people to think that everything is better now and they can return back to their life as normal. I would disagree with that life probably will not be normal, at least in the near future.
Again, that update could come tomorrow or on Monday. Now, a long-anticipated report will be made public tomorrow. The Windsor Police Service and its board are the focus of an investigation by the Ontario Civilian Police Commission. With more, I'm joined live in studio by the CBC's Sanjay Maru. Sanjay, what's at the heart of this investigation?
Well, Chris, it's all centered around allegations from multiple police officers between January and April of 2018, all raising concerns over the workplace environment at Windsor Police, including administration and the Windsor Police Services Board. Now, tomorrow's report is expected to include a number of recommendations that the Police Services Board will review. Windsor Mayor and Police Board Chair Drew Dilkins says he's excited to get his hands on the report and will look at implementing some or all of the OCPC's recommendations. Now, this investigation has focused on a number of things, like concerns over, quote, improper interference in specific legal proceedings, allegations of a, quote, poisoned work environment, how transparent the hiring and promotional process is within Windsor Police, and in later months, the scope of the investigation was expanded to include how a 911 call was handled at the home of former Chief Al Frederick back in November of 2018. Now, among the first officers to raise their concerns to the OCPC was Christine Bissonnette. She alleged gender bias was the reason she was passed over for several promotions. Here's what she had to say ahead of tomorrow's report. Over the last 28 years, I have brought forward several concerns related to the ongoing systemic abuse at the Windsor Police Service workplace. I have approached several government agencies that provide human rights oversight. I have called attention to many issues, including bullying, intimidation, and the lack of gender equality. Hopefully, with this report by the Ontario Civilian Police Commission, change can be achieved. I hope this report gives courage to the many silent others at Windsor Police Service and across the province to finally speak out.
Now, it seems like there's a lot here in this investigation, but how much power does the OCPC have in this instance to actually invoke change?
Well, Chris, the OCPC, as it's been doing, has the power to investigate and inquire into the administration of a municipal police service. But we also know the OCPC can do much more. Back in 2018, Thunder Bay's police board was essentially dismantled altogether following an order by the Civilian Police Commission. An investigator there determined systemic racism against Indigenous people was a major problem, leading to almost all police board members being found complicit and removed. And while it's currently unknown what the OCPC will recommend for Windsor Police, one criminal defense lawyer says it could have ramifications on police boards across the province.
Whatever the challenges that the Windsor Police Service is now facing is not just unique to Windsor Police Service, and it's in every police organization. So I do hope it will be a wake-up call to all police organizations across Ontario, and they will also embrace and adopt at least some of the recommendations that are going to be made in their reports.
And Chen reiterated that the OCPC's power goes far beyond making recommendations. He says the commission can even go as far as suspending or removing a chief from their position altogether. Chris.
Thanks to Sanjay. The CBC Sanjay Maru live tonight in studio. We'll have more on that report when it comes out at cbc.ca/Windsor. Local reports out of Lebanon say that 16 Beirut port workers have been arrested. This follows Tuesday's explosion that killed more than 130 people, injured at least 5,000. Damage is estimated at $10 to $15 billion, and the widespread destruction is compounding the ongoing pandemic crisis. There's also growing public anger against the government over allegations of corruption and mismanagement. Rebecca Collard reports.
The areas, especially the residential areas near Beirut's port, are just still in ruin. There was thousands of volunteers there today cleaning up, also just trying to assist the residents in those neighborhoods. So people are saying they're without food. They need basic cleaning supplies and medical supplies. There were so many young volunteers in the street just trying to assist those people. But, that cleanup effort is not done. And I think even the search effort is ongoing. There's still hope that there could be people in some of these neighborhoods that are underneath the rubble that could still need medical assistance. And it seems that, there's a lot of countries stepping up to try to help Lebanon. But so far, that 1,000 missions that the World Health Organization said they've sent the supplies from surely won't be enough. It's difficult to see that there's a state of emergency here in a lot of ways. We definitely have the police and the army on the street. They're stopping people from entering certain areas because there's fear now that some of these very old buildings will actually fall down. We're more than 48 hours after the explosion, but there's still these buildings that seem to be cracked and small pieces falling off all the time. So I will say that almost everybody I spoke to today put the blame for this squarely on the government. People are very angry. There's been protests I saw yesterday just right beside the port. So as people are coming to Beirut to try to assist the city, they're also here to chant against the government. We had the French president here today, Emmanuel Macron, and he saw that anger firsthand in the streets as he toured an area just about maybe 200 meters from where I am now. It'll be interesting to see in the next few days and few weeks how the lack of faith in the Lebanese government, how the Lebanese government's long history of corruption, nepotism, and mismanagement affects other countries' ability to assist Lebanon at this dire time. Rebecca Collard, CBC News, Beirut.
Locally, the Lebanese community is stunned and grieving over the devastation. Tonight, a mass is being held at the St. Peter's Marionette Catholic Church for the victims and the wounded. Tomorrow, a 7 o'clock vigil will be held at the Peace Monument at Olette and Riverside.
So we've got goldfish because we know kids love goldfish.
Weekly food pickups have looked different this summer for the United Way Summer Eats for Kids program. It runs until August 27th, and it's been busy. Volunteers have been handing out food hampers and books to families at 6 different schools in Windsor and Leamington twice a week. Now, today they were at Dougal Public School, Westgate Public School, and Leamington Secondary School. Organizers usually hand out food at summer camps, but many of those have been closed because of the pandemic.
Oh, we've had great response. The families are wonderfully grateful, and now it's created almost like a small community that we see the same folks coming each week, checking in, asking how they're doing, things that have been hard to do when we've all been social distancing for so long. We've been, latest numbers, about 450 families have been fed up to date.
The Ontario Hockey League is planning to start their season on December 1st. Normally, it would start in late September. They're looking at a 64-game schedule and playoffs in April. But of course, that all depends on how well the province manages the virus over the next few months. OHL teams have been off the ice since the league canceled games in March after the outbreak of COVID-19. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy has the full forecast when we come back. The WNBA is back in action, a bubble format just like the NHL and NBA. And Chatham-Kent's Bridget Carleton, she's making the most of it. She got her first career start for the Minnesota Lynx last night, went to work, 25.7 rebounds, 3 assists. Right now, she should be playing for Team Canada at the Olympics, but clearly she's found a way to make this summer golden, even if it's not exactly what she expected. And joining us now for a live look at the weather is Colette Kennedy, but you are also our sports reporter extraordinaire. The Toronto Raptors have been on fire lately as well. It's nice to see Canada kind of flexing again, right back in our groove.
Yeah, it's so awesome. That story, though, that I was like, oh, she's doing so great. But then, oh, you know, it's like you're so happy for her. But, oh, yeah, at the Olympics, you know. This darn pandemic.
Always something with it.
Yeah, but yes, our Raptors are doing great. So this is great. Great. Love that they're coming back even after the break and doing so well. I want to talk to you about our average high, 27.5, low at this time of year, 17.4. And yeah, we've got this little cool stretch, but not only that, you know, a dry stretch. And that's kind of interesting given that we're only 6 days into August and we picked up just in those first few days of this month over 40 millimeters of rain. And generally in the whole month of August, on average, we have just over 70 millimeters. So we got more than half what we get for the whole month in just those first few days. So our current temperatures, yes, things still pretty pleasant this evening with this dry weather that we have. And I don't just mean dry in terms of not precipitation, but I mean dry in terms of how it feels because our dew points are low. We don't have a humidex. In fact, if you look at it, you only add 1 in terms of on top of the temperature. So that's nice. Now it is going to start to build that humidity as we get towards the second half of the weekend, but we do have sunshine, clear skies in the overnight because of high pressure in place, and then sunshine through the daytime hours. And we keep that through Friday. We're going to keep that as well as we go into the beginning of Saturday, but you notice the clouds starting to increase as we get into Saturday, into the evening hours, all right? So overnight Saturday and then Sunday, I've put quite a bit more cloud cover into the forecast. Now, in terms of precipitation, I've got about a 30% chance that we could see some showers into Sunday. Really, it's more so I've enhanced that as we get into the beginning of next week. So as the humidity goes up and the buoyancy of the air goes up, I've got more of a chance of seeing some scattered showers and thunderstorms into Monday and Tuesday, but the risk is there for the second half of the weekend. So you're planning, for Saturday, better bet. Overnight tonight, your temperature's looking like this. Yeah, a little below seasonal, 13. And then for tomorrow afternoon, with all that sunshine, 27, 28 degrees, are really pleasant because it's comfortable and not so humid, right? Saturday, 28, Sunday, here comes the heat. So the temperature's going up along with the humidity going up, Chris.
That word, though, this week has been comfortable. That humidity being pushed aside has really been appreciated.
Comfortable, comfy, dry, nice, pleasant.
These are what we want. Until next week when it gets humid again and we're back at it. But whatever, that's life.
Yes. Stay in the moment.
No, absolutely.
I'm always telling you that. I got to always pull you back to the moment.
That's the keys. I got to write it down on my calendar.
You need to meditate.
I know.
I can work on that with you.
You're not the first one to suggest. Thanks for this, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now coming up, Donald Trump was making a speech today and talked about Canada, specifically aluminum tariffs. We'll have more on what he said. That's next. Canada's battle with the Trump administration over tariffs on Canadian aluminum appears headed for a renewed round of fighting. The U.S. president fired the first shot this afternoon.
Earlier today, I signed a proclamation that defends American industry by reimposing aluminum tariffs on Canada. Canada was taking advantage of us, as usual.
Now, Trump's comments came in a campaign-style speech at a Whirlpool factory. He says Canadian industry has been flooding the market with aluminum exports, killing jobs in the United States. A U.S. industry group says that reinstating the 10% tariff will end up costing American manufacturers more. It's 6:29 p.m. and that's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. Before we go, I want to give you another tour of a local Catholic school, what school should look like come September. That's it for us. Thanks for watching. For more on these stories, head to cbc.ca/Windsor. Make sure you and your family have a great evening.